Hello, friends. Welcome, welcome to this inaugural episode of our conversation for 2021. So, it was expected that we start our first session of 2021 with a bang, and what better than to have an army brigadier sharing his expertise on sales with us. Sales, any which way, like any sales personnel would relate to what I'm talking about. It is such an stressful function, and just imagine if an army brigadier is there, how would be the situation then? So I will have Brigadier Bhasin join into our stream, and I'll speak for a minute about his extensive experience. But then, if I continue to speak, then I would be the person who would be continuing to speak the entire session. So I would leave it on to him to speak and share his insights, share his experiences from the army and then from the corporate life. So let me first have Brigadier join us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind. I'm so delighted. I'm so excited to have you in our session today because I have grown up hearing stories of army people, the way how disciplined they are. And here today, I'm sitting in front of an army brigadier. So it is such a uh, wonderful opportunity for me to have you on this session today. Thank you
Thank you
for
very much. Thank you, Asheesh. In fact, it's a great honor for me as well. And having attended 2, 3 of your sessions earlier, now when you asked me to come, I was so delighted. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you.
fantastic. Thank you, sir. Talking about, I'll just spend a minute introducing Brigadier Bhasin here. He comes with 35 years of an army experience. So we can understand what kind of strong, disciplined person he would be. And since last 15 years, he is in the corporate life. So he has been, I don't know how many adjectives are there to describe him. He's a motivational speaker, he's a transformational leader, and he conducts corporate trainings. And you ask me which country he has been. India, obviously, North America, Middle East, and so many different places he has traveled with his extensive experience. Since last 3 years, he has been focusing more on time management. And so, almost a week or 10 days back, when I started to discuss this idea of having him in our conversation, there was just one thing Sir mentioned, that there is no time management, there is no sales. It is that simply that he has put. And he's also a writer or an author of a phenomenal book, which you can see right at the back of where Sir is sitting, $1 Million Second. So he's going to talk about that, and we are going to speak more about how and how this book happened with Bhasin sir. So, sir, over to you. If you can take us through your extensive profile, and obviously we would all be interested to hear at least one or two army stories from you.
Okay.
Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I'm really, really happy to be here. And without doing any of the other preludes, let's come to the main thing that
Yes.
if anyone asks me what is the best thing that happened to you in your life, my answer is NDA, National Defense Academy. I think the day I got selected for the National Defense Academy was the best day of my life. There have been many occasions, and I've been asking myself, wasn't I happier the day I got married? Wasn't I happier the day I had a daughter? I don't think anything still matches the happiness that I had the day because it used to be a dream where I used to see my seniors in school, and I was from a scenic school. Go up to when they got selected for ND, and I used to just say, "Will that happen to me one day?" And when it happened, it looked like a dream come true. So the 34 years that I spent in the army, I think every minute, every second of those years was a wonderful time, and I really relished it, every second of it. Now, when it comes to the subject of time management, actually, right from my childhood, I was born in a humble middle class family, and my father had a business. And but they were very strict. My parents were quite strict about timings, about the routine. So I grew up quite disciplined. And then I was only about 10 years young. I never say old. I'm now 70 years young. So I was 10 years young when I went to Scenic School Kapurthala, and that, put more discipline, more routine. Dot on the time, you got up at 6:30, 6, and breakfast at 8, and there was like it went precision. And then NDA was a shade tougher, more strict punishments, that you never thought of. You couldn't think of getting late. I mean, like, getting late was a sin, and you could never commit it. So you got conditioned. And when I went to NDA, I was 15. So, and
Mhm.
I passed out and I got commissioned at the age of 19. So it was very formidable years. You were very moldable that time. And that is how this time things settled down in my mind. Then when I joined the service, then it was not only me talking about my time, you also had to be very careful about managing the time of your troops. And that became an additional responsibility. And then one day, it was in the year 1990 that I was having a little walk with a commanding officer who was a little senior to me, but a very good friend. And we had gone out for a walk. We were in JNK in a forward area called Rajouri. So he asked me, he said, Sushil, tell me, how is it that I see you in every party? I see you doing everything. I've seen you in my life that you send about 1,000 greeting cards in a year. There are many people in our friend circle who know that he will never miss sending a birthday card. And yet, in your work, the moment your letter comes, a reply to, there were no emails. I mean, you said dark.
Mhm.
And whenever a reply from yours comes in the dark folder, I say, why haven't the other people sent it? You send the benchmark. How is it that you manage everything together? And I said, I don't know. I just do it normally. And then I started observing and writing down what were we doing to make things happen like that. And then it became a little habit that I would keep, whenever an idea struck me, I would write it down and things like that. And then many things happened, uh, but you realize the value of time as you went along. At every phase of your life, there were different aspects. So one day, when you're looking for an army story, let me tell you, this story was somewhere where I had goosebumps, and I'm sure you will have goosebumps when you listen to this. I heard this from, I was a brigadier then, and I met a captain who had participated in the Kargil war.
Mhm.
And he was telling me, and before I tell you what he said, let me give you a little prelude that in the army, when you go in for an attack,
Okay.
uh, there is a there is something called FUP, that is forming a place. You form up there, and from there now you go and launch an attack onto the objective. Now, when the infantry, which is on foot, is walking towards the enemy is having aimed fire at you. And if you are going to go into aimed fire, there is absolutely suicide. So, what is done is air power, artillery, long range guns engage from the rear to what we call pin down the enemy. We want to we want to shatter not only him physically, but also create so much of stress that he goes down into his bunkers and is not able to concentrate and give you aim fire. which would give you immunity to fire when you're walking.
Okay.
You're because your the inventory is going, and let me tell you, when you're closer to the objective, there's a minefield. You're not walking like you're walking on the mall road. You are walking with all your equipment, your rifle, concentrating. You are not only physically but mentally, you are in the moment. And any little mistake costs you your life. So therefore, when this is happening and you're going through a minefield and all that, the fire still keeps coming. Although it's not aimed fire, but there's fire all over. And now there is a stage when you come into an area which we call the range of I am forgetting, area of influence or something, where because these are all area weapons. So when they fire, there's a circle or there's a diameter of influence. And now at that time, you must stop firing because otherwise your guns will probably kill your own people. And the fire must go off at that time. Now, this is such a precision work, such a precision work. If this doesn't happen on time, there can be damages beyond imagination. You'll kill a lot of people, right? So what happens is you have to be very precise, and the artillery fire has to lift when you reach that place.
Okay.
Now, if it is done too early, then you are going to be getting sustained. Now you'll get aimed enemy fire, so you are in danger. And if you get late, then you are falling into the trap of your own firing. So therefore, the precision. Okay, now we saw this. Now he says that we went onto the target, onto the objective. It's night. Obviously, most of the attacks are at night or early morning in the dark. So now when you go there, you do something called a mop-up operation, and then we have something called reorganization phase, where now you go and stealthily look for that in all that bombardment where some people would have been killed. Are there some people could have run away, and are there any people who are still there who can fight you back? Now, this is the time when you have your bayonets onto your rifle, and you're not only going to keep firing them, but you're also going to use your bayonet. Like you must have seen in I'm forgetting that name. Ritik Roshan, you must have seen in that movie where he
Lakshya.
goes. Sorry,
Lakshya.
Lakshya, I think. Okay, that he,
Yeah.
when he has to do dhava and
Yes.
he's doing training. So we use that. Now, this captain is got his Sten gun, and he is stealthily looking around if there's any enemy around. And he says, suddenly from nowhere in the dark, a tall, burly enemy captain is standing in front of him. And he says, no, we were just about a meter apart, our guns facing each other. And now he said, I realized that only one of us can survive now. And the one who will survive is the one who pulls his trigger first. Now he says, sir, I'm telling you all this in so much time, but there was no time to think. There was no time to take advice. There was no time to ask anyone. You had to take a decision. I took the decision, pulled my trigger, and there he fell on my feet saying, Ma. And he says, I realized that if he had pulled this trigger even half a second earlier, then I would have been lying down there now, crying, and my mother would be crying like his mother will cry now. Okay, now this story,
Yeah.
and you know what? And that is the time when I thought of that second for
Yes.
him was more than $1 million.
Very beautifully named.
And that is why I said that every second of your life can mean $1 million. And do you take it like that? Do you take the time as your currency? And
Mhm.
so I've got this story in my TEDx talk. In fact, I'll give you the link if some people would be interested in seeing the
Sure.
TEDx talk. So I'm just putting it in the chat box. Yeah. So I don't know how you found that story, but, and incidentally, incidentally, let me also tell you, there was a ORP. You know when the army was fighting for something called the one rank, one pay. Are you aware of that?
No, I am not, sir.
Okay. So one rank, one pay, the army's been fighting for, and the government has not been giving us what we wanted or what we deserve. And then there was a rally, and I'm telling you, never in my life in the army I thought we'll go on a strike or we'll go on rally, because that was never done, never done. And we were there in Bombay, and there were good about 1,500 ex-army officers there for this event. And there's an army officer's daughter who came up on the stage, and she told a similar story. And she said she met somebody like this who told a similar story, and she said, and then he said, "What am I doing this for? For a thankless nation?" And then I've had many friends, in fact, some close relatives who said, "But you were paid for it. You joined it yourself. You volunteered. No, not a favor you've done anyone." So when you hear all that, nobody gets paid for his life like that. I don't think so. There is something beyond just being paid for. There's something beyond just you think about the duty. So that way.
Wait.
You see, even day for yesterday, there's something on WhatsApp group about a cadet Amit who, went and fought. So
Yes.
people are saying you are interested in knowing whether Anushka Sharma is having a baby or, but the media never covers anything like that. Even another, about 10 days back, it was about in Sikkim. They were good about I don't know the numbers, but about 100 plus tourists who got stranded in a snowstorm in in Sikkim, near Nathula and all, and what all the army did and rescued them. There could have been far too many casualties, but the army came, sprung into action, brought them, gave them food. Army went, somebody has written there, a civilian, who says, "I'm so touched that they gave us their blankets, they gave us their barracks, and they went and stayed the night out in 9 degrees Celsius only to make us comfortable." And he says not a single media ever covered this news. So
That
you
is
feel bad, you do feel bad. But anyway, I think we should not be spending time on that. Let's come to sales and sales and time. So
so.
this subject of time management, I told you why I think it's very important. And today, before I go further, let me tell you this book, which has been also endorsed by Brian Tracy, has become not a book for me, it's my mission of life. I want to spend the rest of my life spreading the the spirit of being time conscious. So I would like to leave behind my impact on the society to make it a time conscious society. So I do it with many ways. I've done a TEDx talk. I've written this book. I write blog posts. I've got about 150 plus videos on YouTube, and this is all free content. I also do a podcast on Spotify, and there also I've covered 2, 3 episodes on time management. So the idea I was telling you was that I look through your audience, a lot of support in people who come who support me in this um, what I would say uh, mission of becoming a time conscious society.
Mhm, mhm. I'm sure. So, moving back to our interaction for today, sir, one thing which I am particularly very, very inquisitive about is, since you come from army background, how was this transition like from army to the corporate world? Because I'm sure there would have been instances where you would have felt a lot of frustration because the way army people work, the kind of example that you gave at the beginning of your conversation about sainik school, that coming late wasn't an option. And when we
Yeah,
speak
yeah,
about,
this has been. So you touched a very sensitive nerve. So when I came out of the army, I was running a camp called Empower Activity Camps, and we were, we used to get these corporate groups coming to us, and They would say they'll come at 9, they would come at 10, 10:30, and then not even have an urgency of starting the program early, and they would have a leisurely breakfast. So I thought that they were paying for training and wasting that time, and they didn't even know how much of uh, what is the value of the time they were losing. And none of them, I think, ever realized that it was not their time; it was their company time. So I started doing a few exercises and making them realize,
Mhm.
in one particular company when they came late, I just gave some averages and said, "What is your salary?" And I worked out an per hour salary of theirs and multiplied by 25 people who were there. And I said, "This is what your company lost in terms of revenue."
Mhm.
So uh, then, another thing that struck me, Ashish, was Uh, in the army, we didn't think much about it, but here I was getting a little pain to see how people take it so casually. So कल कर देंगे,
Mhm.
चलता है attitude कि जल्दी
Yes.
क्या है, you know. And then when people came to me, and I used to be doing leadership and team building programs, and in team building I would say, what is your concern? What is the area you want me to focus on? So if there were three or four things people talked about, time management would be generally one of them. And I said, why do they have to learn time management now? Because I had learned it from my childhood. So I thought that had become a part of my DNA. Why are they wanting to do it now? So that is something that again came, and I was just writing down all this, and I said one day I'll write a book, but then I got inspired to write a book. Some material was ready, then other I remembered and started writing, and in 2018 my book was ready, but it is published by CNBC. It took a little time for the publishing to take place,
Mhm.
but I'm very happy because this publisher designed it so beautifully. This book has been very, very beautifully done. And also, you know, every chapter of this book ends up with chapter learnings. And then you have to write down your reflections and actions. And if you do that, there's no way you will not learn from it. So I really want to bring about uh, a change in the people's way they think of time. So I talk about time consciousness a lot. I do a lot of programs online today. One will be on Sunday. Tomorrow I'm doing a program on goal setting. So this has become very, very important for me. Uh, that whatever I do, whether I do through YouTube or I do through Instagram or you do through uh, my writings, my blogs, I want to spread this message of time consciousness.
So, when we talk about time management, like when I, uh, how does it help? If I talk about fellow sales professionals like me, would like to just understand from you what is your explanation about time management, because as a layman, what I think about is time management. Like in a day, when I start my day, I list down all the activities that I have to perform during a day and allocating a right time for that. So when for the first time when I heard from you this topic about no time management, no sales, as much as I can relate to that, because having spent more than 2 decades into that, I could relate. But then would like to understand more from you, sir, that how exactly do you explain? How do you mean that if there is no right or there is no effective management of time, perhaps you can forget your numbers.
Or if you manage your time effectively, you can manage better sales. I would go
Absolutely.
positively like that. Okay. So that means when you work out your investment into a sales effort,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think you normally, and I think you will agree with me as a sales expert, you normally take your direct expenses that went into effecting that sale. Is that right or not? You'll take
Absolutely.
your acquisition cost, you'll take everything. But how many times has anyone worried about how much time you took to do that particular thing?
Mm-hmm.
And if in a day, let's say if you had 8 hours to work, and if you could make, for example, uh, 20 sales calls,
Okay.
and supposing I taught you a way of making 40, then Instead of employing two salespeople, you could have employed one salesperson for your telecalling, for example. I'm just
Mhm.
giving a very simple
Yeah,
example.
yeah,
But I haven't seen anyone measuring that. I haven't seen anyone putting a cost of time. So I have two things. I've got two terms which are there in my book. They are there everywhere, and they are there in the TEDx talk also. The terms are, first is hourly worth. And again, I've learned it from Brian Tracy. Hourly worth is, we all need to understand what is the value of our 1 hour. And it's not in terms of money. It is in terms of the quality of time. What results do I get? How happy, if I sleep for 5 hours and I get a good sound sleep and I wake up very happy, that's a very good hourly worth. I've got my value of those 5 hours very well. If I come for a movie with you, or I
yeah.
come, let's say we have a cup of coffee in coffee cafe day, and when I come back and my wife says, "How was your day?" And I said, "Oh my God, it was such a wonderful time. We really laughed and we remembered our school days. We didn't do anything productive. We didn't. There was no business talk,
Mhm,
but that,
mhm.
that 1 hour was beautifully spent." But supposing, Asheesh, I went, and I won't name you there because I don't know, you're not that person. But let's say there was another friend of mine, and I had to go back home and say, "Oh my God, it was the most horrible 1 hour. This man was so negative. He said his life is bad, his wife is bad, the government is bad, pollution is bad. And I told him, stop, yaar, I can't consume so much of negativity. That 1 hour has been very bad for me. And then the hourly worth is not only zero, it can go to minus,
Absolutely.
because I will then take time to overcome that negativity. You get that point?
Mhm, mhm.
So, hourly worth is very important, but Brian Tracy says that there's no way of measuring happiness. So, just to give you a feel of what is the value of your time, it is calculated by dividing your yearly income by the number of hours you work every year to do that job. Very simple formula. Your yearly income divided by the number of hours you work every year. Now, what happens is, you could be one person, you could be a homemaker, you could be a student. You say, "I have no income." Then you put your desired income there. Okay.
Okay.
That if I was to earn, how much would I like to earn? Or how much am I capable of earning? And then when I divide it by hour, we have a clear indication of what is the value of 1 hour.
Hmm.
And there is a YouTube video, but I'm not going to be able to give you the link. But if you go to my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
there is a video between me and Jogesh, and there's something on hourly worth which he spoke about. So he's one of my students of TTST, and to tell you very shortly, he had come to me and he said, "Sir, today, I was amazed at the class in which, the earlier class." He says, "Sir, that hourly worth has changed my life." I went and calculated, and my hourly worth was 350 rupees. And he says, "I realized that that's not the type of work I would like to do. I had a beautiful job with TCS, and who would like to leave it?" But he said, "No, sir, I'm sure I can earn more than 350 rupees an hour." And today, so Jogesh left TCS, he became my student, and today I think he earns, I don't know his hourly worth, but I know that his yearly package of TCS is a little less than his monthly income now.
So that is
Okay,
the potential of estimating your
that
hourly
is the
work.
that is the power of your mind saying that this is the value of time, and I become conscious every time I'm aware that I'm going to lose this time and it's not going to come back. And if I in my workshops I ask people, fill in the blanks. Time is, and can we have people putting in the chat box, if you can monitor? I can't see the chat box, but say, uh, time is, and then I want to fill in the blanks. And what would you say?
As we have grown up hearing this sentence, sir, time is money.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it's a very, very, I think it's an insult to time.
Yeah,
Insult to time. Money is no patch. I say time is life.
absolutely, absolutely.
Because when I give you 10 minutes of my time, don't I give away 10 minutes of my life to you? And I conscious whom I'm giving this life to?
So I'm really fortunate that I've got almost 1 hour of your life. While you
Yeah,
were talking,
and so have I. So I mean, because I'm sharing with you and I'm sharing with the audience, so even I am deriving a very high value of my time right now. Okay, so time is life. So it's much more than money. I want this, So when I do my time consciousness in my work in my workshop or in my master classes, I make people go through it, and I'm doing a program called Time Managers Program, and it runs for 1 month. But after 1 month, people really change the way they think about time.
mm,
Okay. So now coming to your sales, let me tell you a quick story on sales, an example. So I know of a friend of mine, and he told me the story himself because I was writing to a lot of my people to say, tell me your experiences of time in your life. So in my book, I've got about 15 people whose stories were covered in chapter 11, where I said, tell me a story of either you used your time very well and it really paid you good dividends, or sometimes when you goofed it up and you repented and you realized that had I used my time properly, my results could have been different. So those stories are there. So this gentleman, he was in sales,
yeah.
and he was responsible in a company in a digital marketing company where he was looking after the department of bulk SMSs, and they had the total client list was going to about 2 lakhs. So they used to send out bulk SMSs to 2 lakhs. So
Okay.
one day he says that I realized when people said, and in business a lot of people hear this term, every penny saved is penny earned. I'm sure you
Mm,
must have heard about it. You must have told people every penny saved is penny earned.
mm,
And he says, I realize that when we send 2 lakh SMSs, and each SMS costs us about 10 or 12 paisa or whatever, this is the amount of money we spend for each SMS to 2 lakh people. And then he says, I found in my little observation that there were many people who had not responded to an SMS even in 1 year. So wasn't it a wasteful SMS going? So I asked my analyst that should we do something to prune down this list, and maybe from 2 lakhs we can come to 1.5 lakhs. So they sat down and did that. And they did manage to do that. And they now started sending 1,50,000 instead of 2 lakhs. And in the bargain, he calculated and gave me some figure. I don't remember exactly, but if I remember, it was about 7,500 rupees. So they very, very proudly reported the matter to the CEO to say, so we have saved 7,500 rupees a month because of this exercise that we have done. So he called them to his cabin and he says, tell me how much time did you do to prune down this list? So he said, so we sat down 2 to 3 days, maybe about 2 hours each. So they roughly calculated that between the two of them, they'd spend about 8 hours each. So it was about 16 hours that they had spent together to do this exercise. And he just took a piece of paper, quickly calculated, and he said, according to the salary I pay you, and if I calculate the
mm,
value of
yeah.
money I spend on your 16 hours, this saving of 7,500 rupees has cost me 80,000 rupees. Okay. I don't think anywhere in the corporate world we do that. And today, I am doing with corporates, and I've done it
Mhm.
with many companies. There's a builders company in Chennai called Bharat Builders. We're doing it with them right now. There's a very good friend of mine who owns a company in Mumbai. His name is Arunagiri. He's a very fine, very, very good international trainer, and also owns a company called Pacific Trains, where they make soft luggage and bags and all that. So I've done a program with this company, and I have found that if you, I call it compounding of time. And let me explain this to you. I've been asking some people in a company in my corporate workshops, when you do your leadership workshops, and I said, what are the resources you have in your company?
Okay.
And I would go to the flip chart and start writing down whatever people said. So people would say money, people say infrastructure, they would say equipment, plants and machinery, even they would say people, they would say technology, all that. Nobody ever, even once, said time. And then I would say, is time not a resource with you?
Hmm.
And there used to be a pin drop silence. So last year in December, I was doing a training of SBI General Insurance, and the
Okay.
MD was sitting there. So, and there were about 40 of his very senior people there. So I said, sir, can I ask you a question? He said, yes. And before that, I had done this exercise where nobody had talked about time. I said, sir, how much time do you, as the MD, invest into your company?
Okay.
How many hours do you think you are accountable to your company for work? So he says, accountability, I'm accountable 100%, 24 hours.
Yeah.
I said, but how much time do you really put into your work? Because after all, in your day, you sleep, you spend time on meals, you spend time with your family, all that. How much time do you spend on work? So he says, I'm supposed to spend 8 hours. But I think my productivity is about 4 to 5 hours. I said, sir, that's very, very kind and generous of you and very courageous of you to say it in front of your people that you're. He says, yeah, because people take away my time and I get unwanted visitors and this and that. So even if I want, my productivity is about 4 to 5 hours. I said, so how many people report to you? So I once again reconfirmed. So that means, sir, can I take that your accountability to the company is 8 hours a day? He said, yes. I said, how many people are working in the company who directly, indirectly report to you? So he gave me some figure, which was, of course, a big figure. I said, okay, let me take a round figure. Can we say 1,000? He said, yes. So I said, so how many hours do those people work? He said, 8 hours. I said, so then are you accountable for 8,000 hours a day, or are you accountable for 8 hours a day? And Asheesh, I've got an interview with a guy called Michael Podolinsky. He's in Singapore.
Mhm.
He's labeled as Asia's number one productivity guru, and he has been teaching productivity for the last 37 years in 37 countries. And I was having a conversation which is there on YouTube. When I told him this, he says, Sushil, in 37 years, this never struck me. Can I start using this example? I'll quote you for it. I said, sir, please go ahead. You know what when I say sometimes it impacts people and sometimes it doesn't, is have you ever calculated the time you invest in your work? And and are you realizing you have bought 8 hours of time of every employee of yours? And if he's giving you 4 hours of productivity, you can control all your wastages. You say paper की wastage हो रही है उसको कम करो. Where have you controlled the wastage? There's an enormous wastage. I think every company would say that one of the major expenses in any company is a salary bill. Is that right or no?
Absolutely, sir.
And if your productivity, let's say, is 50% on an average, that means
Yes.
50% of your salary bill is going down the drain.
Totally. Totally.
So now I do a training where I say that I only want to train the MD and the first level of his reportees, let's say about 8, 10 people. And we go through a very extensive exercise of making them time conscious, right?
Mhm.
And then through that time consciousness, when they increase their productivity, I want to ask a simple question. Do you think that that will have a filtering effect on the next tier of people?
Mm.
So you just train these 10 people and your 1,000 people will have get impacted, because if the business head or the function head becomes more productive, obviously he's going to get more productivity from his people.
Totally.
And it'll go down, it'll become So I ask people in a company, and of course we don't have time. I tell another very interesting story from the army is what happens when you get a bullet in your head. It's a very interesting story. We've asked them, and this I first heard my friend General Neeraj Bali talk in a. He was talking to Chartered Accountants Institute, and I'm telling you, it was a phenomenal story. And then I borrowed that story from him because he's my regimental officer, so it's my regimental story too. And okay, I'm tempted to tell you, and I'll
I
tell you why I'm
yeah,
saying. So you know what he did was he's standing on the stage and he started his talk. He didn't say good evening, good morning, I am so and so, nothing. He said, "Tell me, what would you do if a bullet came and hit your head?" So there was pin drop silence. We
yeah.
asked again. So nobody said that. One person said, "I would be dead," and the other person said, "I would scream." Okay. He said, "Let me tell you the story of one of my captains.
Mhm.
I think his name was Matthew something, but I'm forgetting the name, so let me not make a mistake there. Uh, 17 Bihar is the unit. And so he said that this young boy, young captain, was involved in they got at midnight, they got an information that there were some terrorists in a house in a village where they were in counterinsurgency duties in the JNK. So they quickly made a team, the quick reaction team. They went, and now there's a drill. When you go and search in a house, there are some people who stand outside and guard the place. They provide what we call the covering fire. And then this one captain, his friend, so he says he was at the door, and the friend or the colleague, he went inside, and he was now looking out for terrorists so that you can clear them. And suddenly there was a sound of a bullet, and this friend of his fell on the ground. When he fell on the ground, he didn't know whether he's injured or dead. So this captain, and let me call him Matthew for convenience sake, I'm not sure whether that's the correct name. He crawled, knowing that his life is also in danger, and when you're crawling, you can't be firing. He crawled, picked him up, and was coming back when he got a bullet injury. Now, because he was wearing a helmet, he didn't get killed, but he was very badly hurt. So he was immediately taken to the hospital, evacuated by helicopter to Jammu, and treated there. And after about a week or two's treatment, he was granted 1 month sick leave. Now that's in the army. When your treatment is over, you require rest and recoup, and you don't require hospitalization. You're told to go home and relax for 1 month and come back. You come back to the hospital, you're examined again. If you're fit for duty, you go back to your battalion. If you need further treatment, you're kept in the hospital. So he got 1 month sick leave, and he was supposed to be taking, and he got his warrant to go to Delhi. So he
Mhm.
was supposed to be traveling that night from Jammu to Delhi, where his hometown was. But he chose to do something else. He went back to the transit camp, took the convoy in the morning, and went back to Srinagar. How many people in the corporate would do that? So when he went to this back to the battalion, he was asked by the CO, "Why have you come?" Because there was a signal already. The battalion knew that he is being granted sick leave. "Hey, you're supposed to be on sick leave. Why are you here?" He said, "Sir, I just realized that the battalion is authorized 20 officers. We are only 12. And if I also go on sick leave, there'll be 11. So I'm causing more burden on my colleagues. So I thought I can come and, uh, you know, give a helping hand." He said, "But I'm sorry, the rules don't permit when a person is under medical advice. I can't let you be here." He said, "Sir, I know I can't go out on operations and all, but one officer stays in the battalion as a duty officer. Why couldn't I do that? At least then you'll have more officers to go out." So no,
Oh,
so wanted to, but he didn't know what to do about it. But he didn't want to take a risk because in the army you also go by certain authorities. So he rang up the brigade commander and he said, "This is the case." Brigade commander, all leaders have different levels of risk taking and attitude. He said, "Hey, that's a brilliant example, and this guy is going to set an example to other officers. Let's keep him. I'll take the risk. Take it in writing from him that he's doing it voluntarily," which he did. and he continued to stay there. Now, after some time, there was another incident where another such operation, a similar operation, was to be launched. And now he was supposed to be gathering people and sending out, but he couldn't find more people. So, without taking anyone's permission, without taking anything, he jumped into, I'm also going. He went, and in that operation, he got a second bullet injury in their head. And then I asked people, why do people in the army do it? Why do people otherwise don't do it? Why do people in the corporate world don't do it? And that, and then another question that comes up, and if I had a live audience, I would be asking that question to say, where do you think people come from in the army? In the army, officers or men are not imported from Jupiter or Mars, or they don't come from other countries. They are the same people who come from the same villages, from the same schools and colleges. And this captain's brother in the corporate world probably not do what he did. And I ask people, why do people join the army? And why do they do this? And people say they are patriotic. And I said, no, you people are as patriotic as I am. I don't think I would say that I could claim to be more patriotic than you are, Asheesh. But people don't die, people don't do all this for their country. Let me give you a shock. People do it for their battalion, people do it for their Paltan, we call it. And one day I was in a event in Bombay where somebody else said this, and he said, people do it for the country. I got up, I said, no, people don't do it for the country. They do it, and I said, they do it for the इज्जत ऑफ द बटालियन से, बटालियन की इज्जत के लिए किया. और मैं आपको बता रहा हूं कि आपको उस इज्जत का मतलब भी नहीं पता जो हमें पता है, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट द डिक्शनरी मीनिंग इन द हिंदी डिक्शनरी दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. हमें बटालियन की इज्जत से जो प्यार है वो आप समझ भी नहीं सकते. So ultimate, why he told the story was, it is not the patriotism, it is the organization culture, because that captain sees everyone else doing the same thing. The captain knows that if he's got injured, he will not get his brothers and sisters and relatives blood, he will get a blood from that. And why we are so secular? Because I don't know whether I'll get a Muslim blood or it's Christian blood or a Hindu blood. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we value human lives, we value human beings, and we die for each other. And that's a very big thing. So then my message to any corporate people who are watching here today is, build an organizational culture that they mix it up. And I can give you a lot of examples in the corporate also, where corporate cultures matter, because some people in some companies could do something like this and others will never do it. It's the organizational culture. So coming back to sales, in this entire corporate thing that we have talked about, whether it is how many calls do you. So in this company called Pacific, when we were doing the training that day, I just told them something. And every week we have a session. So I told them, tell me, what did you do? And there's one lady who said something very interesting. She said, sir, I'm totally in sales and I do about, it's the same example, actually gave from her example only, that I do about 20 sales. I used to do 20 sales calls a day. And she says, I'll tell you very frankly, I'm admitting that sometimes I would make a call, or not even a sales call, maybe a client follow-up call. And then I would, or there's an order which I've got already. And then I would call up again and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you, which is the place we have to dispatch this order to. And then maybe after another one day or something, you say, oh, can you also tell me how to send the invoice? She says, sir, after you told us what to do, I've got a complete template made.
Mhm.
And I've got it written in front of me. So firstly, I've got my sales script written. And then I've got these 3-4 templates. जब order मिल जाएगा तो क्या questions पूछने हैं. And I don't miss out. And he says, now my clients say, hey, you are doing a great job. And she says, if a call used to take 10 minutes, now it takes 6 minutes. because I don't waste time in thinking. Then I don't talk. I'm reading a script, so I can't be verbose.
Right. So while we are talking, we have.
Oh, I've got this question. Let me answer this. If I have a customer meet and customer delays the meeting, can we walk off from? I answer this question to a lot of people. See, your time is your not your time. Your time is many people's time, and you can see some of my videos. I've talked about this. The point is, I have so there are circumstances where I can do nothing about it because other people's time affects my time. But what I do is I have all my alternatives ready. So when I go for a meeting or I'm delayed in a meeting, while the meeting is not taking place, I never gone for a meeting without my laptop because I'm not very comfortable on my phone. But I will have some things to ready. I'll send some mails. I will delete my extra. There's so many things we have to do on the phone. I don't waste a single minute. And then I keep my. So I used to. There was a time when I used to do back-to-back meetings. I used to plan one meeting, and now I keep a gap there, so that
Mhm.
there's no telescopic effect. There's no kaleidoscopic effect that one meeting delayed, the other meeting, all meetings will get delayed. So Anirudh, that's we can have one-to-one call on that. I can tell you lots and lots of things on how to. There is ways to handle all these situations. In one of my videos, I've covered a story of how my time is impacting other people's time. And I don't know, it's already 51 minutes. You tell me, Ashish, if you have the time and the people are prepared to listen, I'll tell you one more story. But the point is, I don't want to be, because I can keep talking till the night. One, I've got a very important. I told you I've got a class on goal setting, which is for 2021, and I've got a lot of new ideas because I'm not going to be what worked in 2020 is not going to work in 2021. So I'm talking of a goal setting workshop, which is totally different, which has got lots of perspectives of how 2021 goal setting will be absolutely different from what you have been doing in the last few years. And day after tomorrow, I've got my time management program. So anyone who's interested can get in touch with me, and I'll be very happy to. Jyoti is another student of mine from my TTST program, and she is a wonderful person. Guys, she's one of my very good students. She's doing lots of interviews and things uh, on internet, and you must contact her. Yeah, okay.
So we
Well,
have for.
I'm
And
so happy to see so many people I know. Okay, no, this Makrant from Muscat. I don't know. I know Makrant, but no, I'm not too sure. Okay, yeah, I've done a training in Muscat for the Muscat Bank Muscat.
so we have Meenakshi ji.
Meenakshi, of course, I have a very, very old association and relationship with her. I've known her husband before they got married, and I've attended their wedding in 1971. Yeah, 71. May 71, 16 May 71. I remember that date.
Great. So
And
Meenakshi, just to let you know, I'm making notes.
Meenakshi and I, we are absolutely in touch with each other. She's done some training programs, co-facilitated with me, and now she's recently. I mean, she's a graduate of my latest time managers program, and she's had such a nice testimonial video on which is there on YouTube of how she found things changing. And I was a little surprised because she herself is she's a very good trainer herself.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me if you want me to tell you about this compounding of time and how my time matters to other people and other people's time matters to me. Is that time another 5 minutes for a story or no?
We can accommodate because I am particularly very, very interested to hear that out, and I'm sure our audience also would be interested to hear that from you. So I think we can spend another 5 minutes. Though
So
we
I'll,
are.
I'll quickly say that this $1 million second was being launched in Bangalore about 2 years back, and I went for that launch. The mess where I normally stay, we have our own ASC officers mess, was a little away, and knowing the Bangalore traffic, which has become absolutely a mess now, and I love Bangalore as a place. I've been there 3 times, so I wanted to choose a hotel which is right next to the bookshop where the launch was happening. So I booked a hotel online, but when I reached there, that hotel was absolutely bad. And then it suddenly struck me that why didn't I think of RSI, which is an army club, which is also close by. So while I was checked into the hotel and my baggage was in the room, I just went out and I told them I don't like the hotel. Give me half an hour, I'll decide whether I want to stay back or not. So I went to RSI and checked if there is a room. He said yes. So I went back to the hotel, got my baggage in a cab in Uber and came to RSI. When I came there and parked the car outside, and I told him, just wait, I'll get the keys. So when I went and I said, give me the keys of the room. He said, sir, first you have to make the payment and make all the, you have to fill a form and all that. I said, yeah, the cab driver is waiting. Let me go and keep the baggage and come and do the payment. He said, no, sir, I cannot give you the keys till you make the payment. I said, come on, yaar, I even scolded him. I was upset about it, but he was rigid about his orders. And he said, no, I can't shortcut my procedure. So I had no option but to quickly do it because the room was about 300 meters away. And with my baggage and a knee problem, I didn't find it convenient to be taking my baggage there on foot. So this procedure took me about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, the cab driver was calling me up and I was not even taking his call. Then I took his call and said, just coming. Now, when we say just coming, we tell people 2 minutes. We don't realize how many minutes that actually means. So that just now in 2 minutes took 10 minutes. So when I went back to the cab, he was furious and he said, sir, meri ek ride miss ho gaya. I'll give you some extra money. I know I have. Then when he was about to start the car and reverse to go in that direction, he got another call and that lady on the other end was quite loud. So she was yelling at him and said, when I booked the call, it said 15 minutes and is still showing 15 minutes. Where the hell are you? And the moment she said that, I said, Mere ko de do. I took the phone. I said, ma'am, I am sorry. I am responsible for this delay. Tell me, how can I help you? She said, I have got a flight and I'm going to miss that flight and I'm going to be speaking to 1,000 people in Delhi after another 3 hours. And if I miss this flight, there's no way that I can get the event cancelled. 1,000 people would be sitting in that hall and I wouldn't be there. Okay. I told them, no, you turn the vehicle around. I went. I didn't go to my room. I handed over the cab to her and put my baggage in another cab and came back. But what I realized that day, and I want to tell you, did I realize that my 10 minutes are going to affect the cab driver's earning, are going to affect the lady's reputation as a speaker of not making it on time, and 1,000 people's time who are going to be there in the hall waiting for her. We never realized that. That is the compounding of time in the personal capacity. Compounding of time in the corporate capacity, I told you earlier. So this is being mindful of time, being conscious of time. And when you're conscious of time like this, then whether it is sales, whether it is HR, every function of the corporate, we can go into deep details and see how this one simple currency of time, this one tool of time management can really, really make your life far better.
Very well. That was quite an insight, sir. And I have personally I've got a lot of takeaways from this session. I'm sure the audience would also have. And while you were sharing the story about what you do when you get a bullet on your head, honestly, I was having goosebumps while hearing that story from you. So thank you, sir. And we have quite a few friends. I've already acknowledged them. We have Mr. Shyam Balsekar. He's a very, I consider him as my guru in the work. Then we have Minakshi ji, we have Makran. Thank you all for joining us. Sir, is there anything that, as a parting note, as a takeaway to our audience, that you would like to share with?
So I would just say that more than the time management tools that we keep bothering about. So when people come for my workshops, there's a tool sikha do, and I say It is not about tools, it is about being the person who wants to use these tools. So, I talk a lot about time consciousness. So, I was saying, can we start looking at time management as a very important thing? And I would be very happy in giving this gift to your audience. And I'm putting it uh, in the list here, and I hope, yeah, I think it is correct. But just in case it doesn't work, I've also given I call it my e-business card. That link has all my uh, website and all my social media handles. So the audience could use that. Yeah, this one. So this would make you connect to me. So if the gift is not the correct link which I've given, I think it's correct. So this is a gift of a few tools that you could use for your time management, and there's an exercise there which will bring time consciousness into you. So you can join me in my YouTube videos and my programs. Come and join the program day after tomorrow on time management, and there'll be lots to learn on.
Fantastic, sir.
I'm so happy, Sonali, if you found your hourly worth, that you found your 1 hour worth it. I'm so happy. At least I found it very worth it because I feel that I've got a beautiful platform. And thank you, Asheesh, for that opportunity. Because to me now it is to reach out to maximum people. So I'm doing it on, okay, great. Daljit is another student of mine from TTOT, my the online trainer. And yeah, so that's it. I feel time consciousness is something I would really harp on and say that train your mind to become time conscious. And I've got an exercise of 86,400 which you're supposed to do for 30 days, spending 5 minutes every day in the evening before going to bed to work out how many how many seconds of the day, 86,400, did you utilize properly. You do it for 1 month, and you like you go to the gym every day, and at the end of the month you'll find some improvement. Similarly, if you do this exercise, your time consciousness will improve.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And it was an absolute delight for me having you in our session today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, friends, I'm sure you all had a lot of insights, lot of takeaway from this session. So, continuing with this vision, next week, it is going to be yet another insightful session for a sales personnel, anyone who is aspiring to be into sales. It is being said, ideally, he or she should spend some time in an FMCG industry segment. So, next week, we are going to have someone from FMCG who has been a part of sales in FMCG from the company which is known to be a giant in FMCG. So I will share that details very soon. Stay tuned. Thank you.